The static was faint at first, like an itch at the back of your mind. Then came the voice, distorted but desperate. "Help us. We're still here." I leaned closer to the console, my heart pounding. We had dismissed the signal at first, just another glitch in deep space comms. But now, hearing it so clearly, my blood ran cold. The captain stood behind me, arms crossed. "This station's been dead for decades. No one's there." "Then who's calling for help?" I asked. "We thought we were prepared. We thought we were alone. We couldn't have been more wrong." Outpost Horizon was a ghost. A deep space station, abandoned after a catastrophic accident 2 decades ago. The official reports blamed a reactor failure, but the rumors were darker. Experiments gone wrong, entire crews lost to madness, and some whispers of something ancient awakening. When the distress signal first reached our small rescue and salvage team, we didn't take it seriously. Deep space anomalies were common, after all. But as we triangulated its origin, it became harder to ignore. The signal was clear, repetitive, almost pleading. "Please, we're trapped. Save us." Captain Sloan, ever the pragmatist, decided it was worth investigating. A distress signal this deep in space could mean survivors or valuable salvage. Our team was small but capable. Captain Sloan, the grizzled leader with a lifetime of spacefaring under his belt. Kara, the tech expert who could make sense of even the most cryptic systems. Emil, the medic, always calm in a crisis. And me, Jacob, the engineer responsible for keeping our ship and us alive. As we approached the station, its silhouette emerged against the vastness of space. Outpost Horizon was a hulking mass of twisted metal and broken glass, an unlit beacon of desolation. "Signals coming from the control room," Kara said, her voice unusually tense. "Let's make it quick," Captain Sloan replied. "In and out." But nothing about this mission would be quick or safe. The docking was unnerving from the start. As our ship latched onto Outpost Horizon, the clamps groaned as if the station resented our presence. Inside the ship, our systems flickered, lights dimming, consoles stuttering. "Mechanical failure?" I suggested, though I didn't believe it. "Not on this ship," Kara snapped, her fingers flying over her console. "Something's interfering, but I can't isolate the source." The airlock hissed open, and a rush of stale, frigid air hit us. The metallic tang was sharp and invasive, mixed with a faint, unidentifiable stench. Stepping inside was like entering a tomb. The atmosphere was thick with abandonment and something far worse: unease. The corridors stretched before us like veins in a decaying body. Ice crusted over broken panels, and shattered glass littered the floor. Blood, long frozen, streaked across the walls. But the messages scrawled in frantic handwriting were what froze me. "It sees everything. We can't leave. Don't listen to the voices. This place is worse than I thought," Emil murmured, his breath clouding in the cold. "Keep moving," Captain Sloan barked, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. As we ventured deeper, the station seemed to groan, the metal walls shifting as if they were breathing. The signal grew louder, reverberating through the halls, its distortion almost melodic. "Control rooms ahead," Kara said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. She had stopped her usual chatter, a bad sign. We arrived to find the room disturbingly intact. Consoles hummed with life, their screens flickering with static. The distress signal played loud and clear, repeating its plea. "Please, we're trapped. Save us." There were no survivors, no bodies, just an eerie stillness that seemed to watch us. "This doesn't make sense," Kara muttered, her fingers dancing over the console as she pulled up logs. "The signal started broadcasting 3 days ago, but this station's been abandoned for 20 years, Emil whispered, his voice trembling. We stood there, silent, each of us processing the impossibility of what we were seeing. Then Kara's voice broke the quiet. "Guys, I'm not sure this signal is human." The captain made the call to split up, against my better judgment. "We need answers, and we need them fast. Stay in contact and report anything unusual," he ordered. The station began to change almost immediately. The The first whisper came through my comms. A faint sound, almost drowned by static. "Jacob!" I froze mid-step. The voice was unmistakable. It wasn't distorted, wasn't alien. It was Anna's. "Jacob!" Anna had died years ago. Hearing her voice now, in this forsaken place, sent a chill through me that rooted me in place. "Kara, are you hearing this?" I stammered, my voice trembling. "Interference," she replied quickly, though I could hear the unease in her tone. Meanwhile, Emile discovered a frozen corpse slumped against the wall, clutching a tablet. The figure was grotesque, their face twisted in terror, their fingers still locked around the device. Emile's voice crackled over the comms as he read the last entry aloud. "Don't trust the light. It sees everything." "What light?" I whispered, but no one answered. Kara reported seeing shadows. "They're moving," she said. "I keep seeing them dart across the corner of my vision, but when I turn..." She trailed off, her breathing heavy. "It's like they're watching me." Captain Sloan, in the reactor room, described seeing figures forming in the light's flicker. "They're not real," he said, more to himself than to us. "It's just the mind playing tricks." But Kara's analysis changed everything. "The signal," she said, her voice cracking. "It's not human. It's mimicking human patterns, language, emotion. It's bait." My heart sank. Bait for what? The moment the signal distorted, everything in the station shifted. It wasn't just the power flickering, or the lights casting strange shadows. It was as if the very soul of the station had come alive. Guttural hums vibrated in the walls, a pulsating energy that sent a ripple through my bones. The air turned thick with an electric charge, suffocating and oppressive. It felt like we were no longer standing on metal but on something alive, breathing. A soft hum reverberated in the distance, like a lullaby twisted and distorted by something far more sinister. Emile was the first to snap. His face, once filled with determination, now reflected a deep, unsettling dread. His eyes glazed over as a low, childlike giggle echoed from the corridor ahead. "That voice?" Emile's voice cracked, his hands trembling as he reached for the wall, steadying himself. "It's her. I hear her. My daughter." Before any of us could respond, he broke into a run, his footsteps pounding against the floor, frantic and uncoordinated. The laughter grew louder, drawing him deeper into the station's heart. My shout was lost in the growing distortion of the signal, as though the station was swallowing all sound, leaving only this maddening hum behind. "Emile!" I screamed, my voice strained, but he didn't look back. He was already gone, swallowed by the endless maze of corridors. Seconds passed before his scream rang out, a sound so full of terror that it froze the blood in my veins. It started as a cry for help, then it twisted into a high-pitched, guttural wail, ending abruptly in silence. Emile was gone. "Don't let it get to you," Kara whispered, though her voice trembled with fear. She was glued to the control panel, fingers dancing across the keys in a desperate attempt to regain control of the signal. The static continued to crackle, now a low growl as if the station itself was mocking her efforts. But then Kara's body stiffened, her breath catching in her throat. Her eyes widened in terror, locked on something beyond me. "Kara?" I took a step toward her, my voice rising in concern. "What's happening?" Her hands hovered over the controls, but they wouldn't move. It was as if she was paralyzed. Her mouth moved, but only jagged, breathless gasps escaped. Then, as though pulled by some unseen force, a blinding light surrounded her. Her body jerked forward, as though something was yanking her toward the console. "No!" I shouted, rushing forward, but I was too late. The light consumed her, and with a final scream of horror, Kara was pulled into the system. Her voice flickered in and out, a broken echo swallowed by the static. I staggered back, my mind reeling. I couldn't process what had just happened. How could she have been taken so quickly, so easily? The walls of the station pulsed now, throbbing in rhythm with the sinister hum that filled every inch of the ship. Something was coming. A figure emerged from the blinding light that filled the control room, but it wasn't human. It was tall, shifting, like smoke in the shape of a man, its eyes glowing with an unnatural, malevolent light. As it stepped forward, I saw more figures behind it, swirling like smoke, distorting the space around them. Their forms were constantly shifting, as if the light itself could not hold them in place. Their eyes pierced through the darkness, glowing faintly as though they could see through me, see into my very soul. Sloan was already drawing his gun, his eyes steely but haunted. "They're not human," he said, his voice tight with the realization. "These are it." The words hung in the air, an undeniable truth. "This station isn't dead," I whispered, the horrible realization crashing down on me like a tidal wave. "It's alive, and it's feeding off us." The figures stepped closer, and their collective gaze focused on me, cold and calculating. The station itself seemed to lean in, as though it too was hungry for more. I knew then that nothing here would leave without a price. The very walls were alive with something far worse than any alien invader. This station wasn't just abandoned, it was a trap. "Go," Captain Sloan ordered, his voice hoarse as the figures closed in around us. "Get to the ship." His words jolted me into action, but my legs felt heavy, weighed down by the horror of the situation. The unnatural pulse in the walls seemed to slow my every movement. Yet, I knew that if I didn't move now, I would never move again. I ran. Behind me, I could hear Sloan firing his gun, the sharp crack of each shot fading too quickly into the thickening atmosphere. The figures, it were too fast. They were closing in on him. He was already sacrificing himself to give me a chance to escape. The sound of his gunfire stopped suddenly, replaced by a chilling silence. I didn't dare look back. As I neared the docking bay, the station's walls seemed to shift around me, the air getting colder, denser with every step. The signal warped again, laughter now echoing through my ears, and I could hear the voice of Anna. It was faint, but it carried through the static, like a lure. Sounded so real, so familiar. Too familiar. "No," I hissed to myself, shaking my head. "This is not her. This is it." At the docking bay, I slammed my palm onto the override panel, my fingers shaking uncontrollably. The station screamed in protest, its walls shuddering as if trying to hold me in place. A pulse of light flashed across the bay. It was trying to stop me. I could feel the pull, the hunger, as though the station was feeding on my fear. With one final press, the clamps released, and the bay doors began to open. But as the doors hissed apart, I felt the cold hand of the station trying to reach out, trying to drag me back. I bolted into the ship, slamming the door behind me. The moment I was inside, I hit the engine's thrusters. The station wailed in agony as the ship tore free, a final, desperate cry that echoed in the blackness of space. As Outpost Horizon grew smaller in the viewport, I couldn't shake the feeling that the station was still alive. It watched me, always watching, its heartbeat pulsing in the silence of space. But it was gone. For now. Now, as I sit here in the safety of my ship, floating in the cold abyss of space, I can still hear the faint echo of that signal, calling to me from the void. Calls my name in a voice that I should know, but can't place. Sounds like Anna's. It never stops. The signal doesn't fade. It waits, like a predator lying in wait for its next victim. If you ever hear a signal from the void, I warn, my voice hoarse with the weight of what I've seen, don't respond. Don't follow it, because whatever it is out there, it's not human, and it won't let you leave alive. I thought I escaped, but I can't escape the feeling that the station, the hunger, is still out there waiting. If you want to hear more stories from the dark corners of space, hit that like button, subscribe, and share. You don't want to miss what's out there. Just remember, some signals are better left unanswered.